thank you, and it's wonderful to see all of you up here. I think, Mr. Duncan, we've heard over and over from your side about how awful the Biden administration is and how important all these bills that you're bringing before us are. And I think the last time you were here was to testify about the Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act. I think it was H.R. 7176, if I'm correct. And my understanding is that, as has been said by me and by some of the others who have testified here on the Democratic side, that a lot of much of what we're considering today was included in the Republicans' bill H.R. 1, which I assume that was the top priority because H.R. 1, that's the first bill out of the gate. And I assume that you would like the Senate to pass these bills, right? Absolutely. And has the Senate acted on any of these bills yet, to your knowledge? Not to my knowledge. Yeah. So I raised this question because last week on the House floor I talked about how I was criticizing the Sense of Congress resolution that was being brought up on the border, basically saying that it didn't do anything. I mean, you pass a Sense of Congress resolution and it stays in the House. It doesn't even go to the Senate, and it doesn't have the impact of law that you actually had to pass an HR for it to become law. But I would say, these two bills, the LNG bill and H.R. 1, if they are such big priorities of my Republican friends, then why haven't you sent them to the Senate? They haven't even been sent. They haven't been sent to the Senate. I mean, the H.R. 1 was passed almost a year ago, and it hasn't been. So it hasn't been sent to the Senate. I mean, the Speaker just hasn't delivered them, even on the LNG bill. I mean, like I said, the House passed H.R. 1, and it's just been, and the Republicans in the House have just been sitting on it. I mean, it's almost as if the Republican leadership is trying to play hide and seek with the Senate, And I mean, I think if these bills are of such importance, then why hasn't the Republicans? Why haven't you guys sent it to the Senate for it to even be considered?
That'd be a question for leadership, and I'm not in leadership, but I would be willing to bet that when Democrats controlled the House, there were bills that weren't transmitted to the Senate either.
Yeah, and that happens every once in a while.
It happens in every Congress.
But not like this. I mean, in fact, I have a whole list of bills that you guys have passed that you say your top priorities that have not been sent over to the Senate, from H.R. 1 to the H.R. 1163, Protecting Taxpayers and Victims of Unemployed Fraud Act, to H.R. 3799. I may go right down the list, including, I mean, you made a big deal about impeaching Secretary Mayorkas, and that hasn't been sent over to the Senate for their consideration yet. I mean, can you promise us that the bills that you are bringing before us today, if they're passed, that they'll be sent over to the Senate?
Like I said, that's a question for leadership. Mr. McGovern, I used to sell real estate for a living, and if I had a 100-acre tract of land, there were only so many buyers that could buy a whole 100 acres. Mm-hmm. But I could take that 100 acres and cut it into 101-acre tracts or 10-acre tracts, and I had more buyers for that. Sometimes you have to break a parcel up in order to get the pieces passed or the pieces sold in the case of real estate. So this doesn't change the fact that Congress must act to advance the policies in H.R. 1023, for example, because time's running out to stop the EPA from wasting taxpayer money and raising taxes on Americans. So the time is now. That's why you're seeing this broke up and brought up separately.
But to build on your analogy, you're not even letting the buyers in the door. I mean, you're not sending anything over to the Senate. I mean, again, you're blaming Biden for everything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe is Joe Biden asking the Speaker not to send your priorities over to the Senate? I'm trying to figure out how he could be blamed for the fact that H.R. 1, the top priority of my Republican friends, has not been sent over to the Senate, still sitting on the Speaker's desk. I mean, when I ask unanimous consent to insert all these bills that my friends like to talk about that are stuck here. The Senate doesn't even have an opportunity to consider them because they haven't been sent over there yet.
Without objection.
Yeah, I just point that out, 'cause I just find it, ironic that people come before the Rules Committee and they talk about how, how Biden's stopping this, Biden's stopping that, Biden's stopping this, but H.R. 1 is not over the Senate, not because of Joe Biden, but because of you guys. So with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member. I'd like to yield to the gentleman